All right, so Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to begin by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to hopefully elect, right? So as you can see from this video, you have an ignorant Jake, as most of them are, speaking to how the Bible, so-called, doesn't make sense. Now, this is what happens when you have this plantation Christianity being taught to 2/3 Jake on a consistent basis for the last who knows how long. I mean, hundreds of years, right? You have this, and it's not even completely, it didn't originate on the plantation, because it stems from even before that with the Catholicism and the Romans, right? The beast, right? The red dragon, So when you have all of these ideologies, all these coming together, right? Which you really have to go through your history, right, and learning about even what Catholicism is, right? The word Catholicism or Catholic, really, when you go into, the definition of words and things of that nature, it just means a universal religion, meaning what? It came from a lot of different places, right? You got to go into your history when it comes to the Roman emperors and the Roman rulers. You got Ptolemy, who combined, Egyptian, I think I got the right one. Brothers can fact check me on that, but you got Ptolemy who, combined, Egyptian ideologies, Greek ideologies, and, made him whole so that way he could conquer, more people, right? Because that's one way to conquer people. You have to give them a deity or something that they can relate to or they can resonate with, right? So that's what happened. And then now you got this Christianity, and they believe in, the names of Jesus Christ, which you ignorantly call because the name of the Son is Yahweh Shah, right? Yahweh Shah, Hamashiach, right? Hamashiach meaning the anointed, the Messiah, right? Yahweh Shah being the true name of the Son, Yahweh being the true name of the Father, But they washed his name, or they tried to, rather. They tried to wash his name away, So it's just a lot of things that don't, that begin to not add up, right? You have, matter of fact, before we even, because I'm going to go back through the video, but before I even do so, right, just dealing with those 2/3 Jake, because he seems like he thought that he, hit the nail on the head and is going to confound a lot of people, which, quite frankly, he probably will confound a lot of people because a lot of people are unlearned, right? But for the true brothers, this is, matter of fact, before I read that, because like I said, he's going to confound a lot of people. But what happened? Why? This is 2 Timothy 4 and start at 3. It says, "For the time will come." Well, let's start at 1. "I charge thee therefore before the Most High and the Lord Hamashiach Yahushua, who shall judge the quick and the dead at his appearing at his kingdom." Right? The quick meaning those who were quickened by the Spirit, and the dead, of course, meaning those who were without the Spirit, right? The spiritually dead. It talks about in the book of Ezekiel. It talks about that in Romans 11:8, right? It says, "Preach the word," verse 2. It says, "Preach the word, be instant in season, out of season, reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long-suffering and doctrine. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lusts shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth and shall be turned into fables," right? So when you got this guy, right, it has been turned into fables, man, because you have all these false teachers, these false ideologies, and things of that nature, right? You have these false thoughts, right? So let's let it play. Commentary.
This is what Christianity sounds like to me in a nutshell. Let me read. God created billions of planets, including Earth, waited billions of years. Then he chose this one planet to put human life on, creates a man out of dust and a woman from his rib, puts them in a ridiculous situation and tells them to not do something that he knew they were going to do. After she gets tempted by the talking snake, this ultimately leads to the downfall of humanity. So go through a bunch of unnecessary...
Since, the video kind of faded out, a couple comments. I mean, again, if you want to go into the creation, right? Let's see. I mean, because it's so many things wrong with the modern day breakdown of the creation, right? Such as, the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shah created the earth in 7 days. No. So like phone had cut out. But as I was saying, no. It was not 7 days, right? What does the scriptures tell you, right? 1 day is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is 1 day, right? The Lord's time is not our time, right? But it was 7,000 years. So you have to look at it as the first 1,000 years, second 1,000 years, so on and so forth, right? The earth wasn't created in 7 days. No, it was 7,000 years, right? But that's just one false teaching that they have, one misunderstanding that the people have. Or another is that Adam and Eve were the first two people on earth, or the only two people on earth at a point in time. False. There were other people on the earth. Adam was just the first man with the understanding of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah, right? The understanding of right and wrong, right? The just wisdom, right? The breath of life, right? Not that they were the first two people on earth. No. I forgot. What else did he say?
Ultimately leads to the downfall of humanity. So go through ultimately leads to the downfall. Tells them to not do something that he knew they were going to do. After she gets tempted by the talking snake, this ultimately leads to...
Yeah, the talking snake. Of course. No, it's not a snake. It wasn't a snake. It was another man, and the fruit, that so-called fruit or apple or whatever people call it, it's a metaphor, right? Metaphor for what? Other ways of life, other philosophies. That's really what it is, philosophies. Like, she went to another man, and this other man taught her the other ways of life, right? The ways contrary of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah. She brought it back to Adam, and he took part of it. Now, is that what led to the downfall of man? Yes. Rather, the chosen people, which would have been, the Adamites at the time, right? Which later went down into the Israelites, right, through Jacob, right? But did that happen? Of course. I mean, but that's because you were being disobedient to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shah. But
the downfall of humanity. So go through a bunch of unnecessary suffering, which is extremely unfair and unjust. Skip some time, God.
See, and this is where Jake gets it wrong. And it's plainly disrespectful to say it's unjust. No, these are your ways. This is what Jake did. And some people say, well, I didn't do anything. I was born. But that's when you have, again, been taught incorrectly. Because now you have to dive into reincarnation and how you are your fathers, right? But it would take, because he really ran through, a lot of different things. And in order to go deep in depth into each thing, you would have to, it would take, quite literally a whole 24 hours to do so, in depth. But that's why the elders and apostles have done countless videos on this over the last, 3 decades, right? So, if you want more in-depth answers on some of these things, because I'm just going to run through them and then grab a couple scriptures. If you want more in-depth things, I've done things on my channel. Other brothers have done things on their channels, right? Keepers Receipts specifically, right? Then, of course, you have the elders and apostles and the brothers, bishops, so on and so forth of GMS, who we learned this truth from, right? So go search, right? Like the scriptures tell you, search. You can't take things as for face value. You can't take them just because I said them, or even the apostles and the elders will tell you that. You can't just believe them just because they said them. Go prove it. Do the research in the scriptures. Let it be proven, right? But again, I'm just gonna let it play a little bit. I'm gonna give short commentary on some of the things he was saying, and then I'll give a couple precepts.
Didn't like how his creation was behaving, even though he knows everything that would happen. So he sends a flood to wipe out everything and tasks a 500-year-old man to build a boat and get 2 of every animal on the boat at the same time. Throughout this time,
and for one, that's another false belief that it was 2. It wasn't 2, right? It was really 7. But let me grab that. Was it 7 or 6? Yeah. It'll be up in Genesis. Be around here. I probably should have had this pulled up. Oh, there you go. Verse 1. Well, it's really verse 2. Genesis 7:1, it says, "And the Lord said unto Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens, of the male and his female, and of the beasts that are not clean by 2, the male and his female." So, again, these are just things that they don't teach correctly, man. That's why you can't believe in or trust in the Christianity, Catholic, any other, Baptist, whatever. You can't believe in. You have to come to, first and foremost, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, and learn under the man of GMS on down, right? But it's really, I'm not really gonna go into each one of these, right? I'm really just gonna let the video play and commentate on the rest.
he encourages war and commands the slaughtering of innocent people. By the way, he randomly chose a small region of people to reveal himself to through hallucinations and visions, and tasked those people to preserve and write down his word by a mix of history, symbolic language, and metaphors. Then he magically impregnates an underage girl so he can send himself to earth to sacrifice himself to himself to serve as a loophole for the rules that he's in charge of to save.
Okay, so honestly, you watched the whole video in the beginning, and it's a little, it's really, matter of fact, it is comical. It's very comical because when he says it like this is exactly how they teach it. They teach it so incorrectly, it confounds people. It makes no sense to me, to any of the brothers, the way that Christianity teaches these things, right? Now, he said something about slaughtering people. Now, don't get it misconstrued. The Lord is a man of war. It tells you that, right? In the book of Exodus, so I'm not mistaken. The Lord is a man of war, right? Slaughtering, killing, blood, all of those things are things that he will do. And he's not apologetic for it either, right? So, but again, the Christians have you to think that he doesn't do these things. But, outside of that, when he said, when he was speaking towards he said an underage woman being impregnated and all these things. So, again, one, Mary had intercourse with Joseph. Let me say it again. Mary had intercourse with Joseph. She laid with Joseph. Yahushua is the blood son of Joseph. But the Christians will have you think that an angel or the spirit or something came down and impregnated her. And then on the other side, as you keep going in what he said he put himself into the what did he say?
Sacrifice himself to himself. He impregnates an underage girl so he can send himself to earth to sacrifice himself to himself.
That right there. He said so he can sacrifice himself to himself. And that, again, false teachings. Himself, being the Father, Yahweh, did not send himself, the Father, down. No. Yahweh Shai and Yahweh, the Father. The Father and the Son are two different people. But again, this is how these things get confounded. But like I said, I'm not going to go through the whole video and debunk each and every one of these things, right? Because it's a very general video that he did. But point being, like I said, a lot of this is what Christianity does to you, man. Christianity confounds the simple-minded. But and that might be the title. I don't have a title of the video yet, but it might be Christianity Confounds the Simple. So let's get to the points, because again, there are a lot of jakes that think like this, and they tend to shy away from the scriptures. But for the people who don't believe, this is Romans 3:3. It says, "For what if some did not believe? Shall their unbelief make the faith of the Most High without effect? Most High forbid. Yeah, let the Most High be true, but every man a liar. As it is written, that thou mightest be justified in thy sayings, and mightest overcome when thou art judged." Because what happens is, Christians like to add things in the scriptures. They like to add things. When you bring it out in the scriptures, they say, no, that's not right. When you bring out how the Most High said he hated Esau, what do Christians do with that? They can't. There's nothing that they can do with that. They try to run around it, but you can't. You can't run around this. You don't want to believe, that's fine. Cool. But it's not going to change anything. It's not going to change the fact that Yahweh Shem Yahushua is going to come down. He's going to destroy this place within an hour. Like he says, it's only going to take him an hour to do it. He's going to destroy this place with missiles, nuclear missiles, lasers, bombs, earthquakes, all of the above. You know? And this place as in America, right? But again, you know, we really don't care, because it's all a big stumbling block at the end of the day. You know? It's all a big stumbling block. And who placed it there? Let's read. This is Romans 11:8. Or I start at 7. What then? Israel have not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election hath obtained it, and the rest were blinded. According as it is written, the Most High have given them the spirit of slumber, eyes that they should not see, and ears that they should not hear, unto this day. So it's the Most High who gave them the spirit that they can't see, they can't hear. It's impossible. The scriptures tell us, you know, like for example, it says after the second, third ammunition, reject, because you can't beat a dead horse. We try to tell you, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Ultimately, it's of Yahweh Shem Yahushua to allow you to grow into it. That's why, like Paul said, you know, roughly paraphrasing, he watered, Apollos planted, you know, but it's the Most High that gives the increase, right? We can say things, we can teach as best as we possibly can, but ultimately, if you don't get it, it's just not meant for you, right? That's why Yahweh Shai said, you know, to you it is given, you know? But verse 9, it says, "And David said, let their table be made a snare and a trap, a stumbling block, and a recompense unto them. Let the eyes be darkened that they may not see, and bow down their back always." So this is what it is, and it's going to be this way until the end, man. Until Yahweh Shem Yahushua comes back and he brings his kingdom and puts his kingdom on earth, man. Until that happens, it has to be that. It has to be that way. You know, like he says, he reserves people for the day of judgment. But quick lesson, you know, more of a generality kind of thing. I mean, I said a few points, but you know, I didn't go too deep into all of the different points. More so, the whole point of the video was just that Christianity. This is what Christianity does to people. It confounds them. You know, because it just doesn't make sense. They don't make things make sense. And if anything, the Most High makes sense. Why? Because he's not the author of confusion. You know, and so if you're confused, then you probably don't have the Spirit. I mean, it's as simple as that. Right, so we're going to end this by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and shalom to the hopefully elect.